Hello, quick break, everyone. But we are back with some more Valorant. One more match to be ending off our week here, and it's between TSM and Ambrosia. I mean, starting off at this stage, Ash, there's so many questions, everything else. And Ambrosia was one of those teams that we had questions about. They showed up, they get a win. Now it's going to be the real question. Can they do it again here up against TSM?
Honestly, like I want to see them riding the momentum. I feel like Ambrosia looked really good up against M80. That is insane. The fact that they took that 2-1, the upset that I don't think anybody expected here for the first week of stage two. And sure, the first two maps were close here and there, right? But Fracture, they completely blew M80 out of the water. A map where M80 was kind of known for this map within the beginning of this split. They looked really comfortable on it, and it was just a night and day difference.
That Fracture, I could not believe what I was seeing with my very own two eyes. That was some crazy stuff coming out and really showing that this team that had made so many recent changes, Roy, that
Yep.
really came out here to play. Like Ambrosia, again, guys, this is the team that well, they got put into the relegation promotion tournament based off their stage one performance. Like this team was like, not necessarily cooking. They make a couple changes. They
Yeah.
pass with flying colors, and now the first game, they looked so good.
I mean, it has to be at least validating, right? To make roster changes, and then you in your
Mhm.
first match, you're upsetting the grand finalists. Like that has to feel really good for this team. And I am kind of, a part of me is really hoping they're going to ride that momentum. They're going to ride that confidence. But I'm actually a big fan of their pickups. I like the changes that they're making. Glyph, we highlighted Glyph last split. He's been that vocal player for the team. It makes complete sense for him to take on the IGL mantle. And of course, they're adding Welly, a really strong initiator player, and they're adding in, of course, Acrean as well. Acrean he's always been a monster statistically in every role that he's played. He's debuting now in the initiator role, and he's been playing very, very well.
Yeah, when being able to see this first game performance and talking a little bit more about Akrian to be starting things off. This is someone who we got to see picking up the Tejo, and you have someone that on the Tejo on your team is performing. I mean, Ash, it kind of seems impossible to go up against at some points, and he was just such a big key part with this team to be able to put them in such a driving force in the first place.
Oh, absolutely. I think that he had incredible utility that was being thrown out there, great like zoning opportunities to help Satellite get onto those sites. But then what really stood out to me was just his own micro play and a lot of those like clutch situations where he had perfect timing. It felt like he was in the heads of N80 at all times. He had in great intuition from what we saw within that first matchup. And I'm looking forward to seeing if he can continue forward with this kind of performance because I know he was itching to get back into the server for sure.
100%. And it'll be so fun to see. But someone else on this team that Roy was just a delight
Yep.
to watch. We got to talk about Satellite because there is sometimes, players on teams that aren't necessarily near the top of the scoreboard, yet kind of overlooked. And like Satellite, like no matter what Ambrosia's path is from here on out, like don't count this guy out.
Yeah, I mean, this player is honestly maybe the most underrated duelist that we have in the league.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of his performance has been largely overshadowed by the lack of results that this roster's had. But individually, he has shown impeccable form. And not only that, but he's also had these performances even against the best duelists in the league. He's putting up these numbers consistently. He's flashy, he's fast, he can op, he can rifle, he can play every single duelist. And I feel like when this team really gets going, and if they do turn the ship around, we're going to realize just how much of a monster this player really is.
I think what's great about it too is that we were talking a little bit about on day one how these new players coming in and with Sean Dex and with Welly coming into the fray here, it really helps solidify like the role issues that Ambrosia were dealing with during the first stage. Just because we had Adder who was like slotting in as a sub, Akrian wasn't able to play the entirety of the stage, and we saw a lot of just like shifting map for map. And now that these players are going to be able to really focus in on their designated roles, I think that's going to be a lot more comfortable for Satellite to build this continuous synergy with the rest of the team to actually really lock down on having that proper setup for him to help him continuously succeed.
And it would make sense with those changes, being able to have people on these more comfortable positions that we already got to see such a strong look from the team. And I'm assuming then with time, it's only going to look stronger. So it'll be a lot of fun to see them play today. Going up against, though, one of the top teams that we have here, Titans in themselves, TSM. I mean, this team, as soon as like we got this fourth and fifth man right, it's only been up for them. They've got the core, they got the firepower, they have the depth. There's a lot to take down.
Yeah, I'm actually expecting this team to just rage peak everything this split. This is like their favorite word. They just love rage peaking things. And I feel like we're about to see, and we have said this many times before, right? We've always said, oh, we feel like TSM is going to have a great split. We feel like they're going to have a great split. But I actually do feel like they are, right? They just needed a little time to get Rico a little bit more experience. They needed Bora to settle into the IGL role. They've had that time. Their opening match versus YFB looked great. Yeah, they had a hard-fought battle on map 1, but map 2 was a complete blowout. And we saw the glimpses of and the potential of this roster. And I have a feeling they're going to keep this train going.
Yeah, and then I think like when you're talking about this roster, we're talking about the potential for them as well. We have to lock in a little bit on Seven, who has been so flexible for this team, you know, most well known for him running on this initiator role for the most part as of late, but his ability to even flex onto agents like that Cypher to just add that additional depth to the adaptation possibilities for the compositions when it comes down to TSM, and really the fact that he's able to perform so consistently even when he is going for those role swaps is no easy feat there for this player.
Yeah, I mean, I've been a big fan of this player for so long. Like, and despite the fact that he's been signed to orgs almost his entire career, I actually do feel like he's still pretty heavily underrated, right? Like, whenever he's having monster performances, we're not batting an eye. And I think that speaks to the level of expectations we all have for this player, because it really does feel like whenever he's having these pop-off games and these pop-off moments, TSM is getting the easiest wins that they possibly can have.
Yeah, and it's easy to see then with that being the case. We have such high expectations for these players, for this core, on why this is a team that decided to stick together throughout this. Not just the core throughout these ages, but seeing the same team from stage 1 going into stage 2 and everything else. They definitely have the key to victory here. It's about truly unlocking that and seeing everything truly come together. But someone else that has been a mainstay and just always a delight to see in the server. Talk a little bit more about Sim. It's always Sim, Sim, Sim. We never stop talking about Sim. But like, Roy, like, can people blame us?
I don't think they can, to be honest. I mean, this guy is the opener. Like, if you think of an opening in first engagement type player, like this is the player you're looking at. I'm pretty sure he's, statistically speaking, he has the most first engagement per round played in VCL ever, I think. He's a super high octane player. He plays every single duelist. His op is really scary when it's on point, and he's willing to attack op, something that, you know, a lot of teams struggle with because they don't get a lot of practice against it, because most teams are just rifling, right? They want to capitalize off the breach util. They want to capitalize off the Tejo util. So they don't get reps. But he's willing to take out that attack op. He's willing to be that annoying duelist. And when he really gets going on these openers, if you're not shutting him down, you're struggling.
Yeah, that's the thing, is the fact that he's such a big win condition. And the match that TSM won on two days ago up against YFP, sure, Lotus was a close affair, very momentum-based for both sides, but then Haven was an absolute shutout for TSM. And that was on a day where Sim, like, he was doing his job, but he was not like at, you know, the top of the leaderboard or anything like that, not having nearly as flashy of a day as we're used to seeing. So once he is able to get that, start off on the right foot and get that momentum going, it becomes a really scary affair. I do think this head-to-head, though, is going to be insanely intense with these players, as share a very similar agent pool as well. And the Yoru head-to-head is about to go actually insane.
Crazy.
In the server.
Oh, that'll be so much fun. And Satellite, I mean, Satellite had 3 maps to get all, like, a bunch under his belt and was just needed to really be stepping up for the team here. When you are looking at an M80 on the other end, that's been a team that we've praised so highly. Whereas Sim, I mean, yeah, Sim doesn't always need to get the kills. When he shows up in the server, like, Roy, it's lights out for the other team. Do not get me wrong. But it's someone that can also just, like, do his job, get a normal amount of kills. And at the end of it, it's like, all right, like, everyone else on the team is able to step up too. Like, they're just so well-rounded. So even if the numbers are very, like, skewed on Satellite side for that, it'll still be really good.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what's crazy is we were talking about Sim, we're talking about Seven, and like, yeah, when these players are popping off, but there's still Recoil, there's still Vora, there's still GMD. Like, GMD's controller has looked insane since he got off the IGL duties. He's had a lot clearer of a mind, and he's able to find his moments, right? And I think overall this team is definitely scary on all fronts right now.
100%. But hey, Ambrosia has shown that they can tank with the best. So let's see what they can do in the series and head over to the map picks and bans and see, because that could be a deciding factor too. When we are looking at an Ambrosia that are still kind of fixing stuff with this roster, even if they did not look like they were fixing, they just slayed their last match. Don't get me wrong. I'd be curious about their map pool in general, but going into this, split from TSM, Ambrosia, Ash, going to be picking up the second, and then with Ascent, then Icebox to round it all out.
Yeah, I think, you know, the Ascent doesn't seem too surprising coming up from Ambrosia. We saw them pick into that with M80 and whatnot. Sure, it's a really like close map, but they still managed to take that win. It really just came down to, you know, some of the momentum on the defense to help them close that one out. But I think I'm really interested to see how Split's going to end up going here for Ambrosia, especially now that we have, you know, the new players coming in, seeing what their approach is going to be like compared to stage 1, where they did have good results. They were running like a Yoru deadlock composition, which was really fun to see. And that was during the promotion relegation, though. So a little bit of a difference, I would say, as far as the caliber of teams that they found success up against.
Yeah, just a reminder, Ambrosia actually played Split in their last match versus M80. It was the second map of the series. They ended up running the deadlock composition as well. They were running the Tejo Breach and the Yoru on the satellite. So I think the reason why TSM picked this is, one, it's been a strong map for TSM, and two, they have footage. They can see the flaws. They can see the cracks in the way that Ambrosia was playing that map. So I'm not surprised at all to see Split being the first map.
It just makes it not as interesting when we debate about what agents that we're going to see.
Yeah, true.
You know, that's all that's being done here. But definitely think that for TSM, this is a pickup for the very first one in the series. Makes a lot of sense here. And I'm excited for how this one's going to be turning up overall. Be able to see if Ambrosia, yet again, like, you could take down a top team once. Can you do it twice? But TSM, they've been looking good so far. So that's why when we look over at like our official predictions and everything else, even if I liked what Ambrosia was selling on their debut match, man, Ash, I still had to go with TSM, and we're almost all unified. It's only Arnold at the end who's going to go with Ambrosia.
Arnold? You mean Arthur?
Arthur?
Arthur? Oh, bro. Guys, it's been a long day.
It's been long.
I'm actually so deceased at that. But yeah, I think that, you know, overall, I want to say it was actually pretty hard for me to decide between Ambrosia and TSM. I was pretty high on Ambrosia after their matchup against M80, because I feel like that with getting that win up against the team that went second during the first stages playoffs, that has just such like a long line of like history and achievements within VCL, that's really got to gas you up when it comes down to that momentum and the vibes heading into today's match. But the TSM that we saw up against YFP, honestly, it felt like the calling that was coming out from Vora, he was running a clinic. And I'm really excited to see how Ambrosia is going to look to deal with how they're running some of those defaults, the way that they're looking to cut noise, starve some of that information. And I just can't wait, Roy.
Yeah, I definitely feel like TSM is looking a lot more well-oiled right now, right? They're finding their dynamic between GMD, they're finding the dynamic between Seven, and of course, Vora, the main IGL. I think there's a reason why they look so terrifying, but I can also understand why Mark's picked Ambrosia, right? They beat the grand finalists after they just added Victor and Chet. Like that is crazy.
Yeah.
That has to feel really good, right? That has to be very validating. So I'm excited to see what kind of level of confidence they bring into this match versus TSM, because I feel like TSM is just looking a little bit less awkward right now.
I mean, we're one step closer to getting into the matches. The agent select is ready. So let's head on over to that. Again, Ambrosia, they've played this pretty recently, and it was close, even if it wasn't quite a victory. For TSM, this is something that we've seen quite a few reps on. So Ash, getting into this, I don't think there's any surprises here.
Yeah, no changes here whatsoever, right? I think it's going to be interesting to see, you know, we hyped up the duelist head-to-head between Satellite and Sim, who's going to continue forward with that Raze pick. And the big thing is for the side of TSM, that means Sim's going to be much more reliant on his team setting up for him. Satellite has a little bit more of that freedom with being able to play more for himself on that Yoru, have that get out of jail free card. And for TSM, it's going to be looking towards a lot of that spacing and the utility to help Sim succeed.
Absolutely, and TSM is running the same composition they showed in the last split. So there's going to be maybe some footage available for Ambrosia to sort of get an idea of how they want to approach the map. Obviously, there's been a lot of time since then. A lot of changes could have been made, but ultimately, it's going to be up to the prep of TSM going into their match pick.
I mean, even prep aside, we know that both of these teams are more than capable of shooting. So let's see it happen as it's time to head into Split. It's time to get the first map of the series and head back over to your Casterix, Tenric, and Marks, who I know has a lot to say about what we got to talk about on the desk.
Certainly, I mean, a hell of a thing to put first on your resume for Ambrosia coming into this matchup. Beating M80 in your very first match back in Challengers with a roster that was, frankly, quite primed to get to a point where they could do it at some point in the year. These are 5 players that have just been grinding and making their way up the ladder of Tier 2 for so long. And they've got to climb it a little bit more, Marks, for win number 2. TSM, another storied roster that has 5 of the deadliest players you ever did see.
All right, Ambrosia, don't let me down. I gambled it all on you guys right now. I mean, okay, if I'm being completely honest, when we were doing the pickups there, just watching the game against M80, I was really liking what I was seeing from the squad. I think that the pickups that Ambrosia did were working extremely well, and it felt so much more cohesive than what I was really expecting from them. Obviously, they did go up against M80, which whenever you slot in new players, there is still a little bit of time that you need to kind of solidify things. But still, this is really going to be the limit test as they go up against TSM, who is quite the storied roster here.
They're already setting up lickety-split here up on Heaven, but with the grab net, Satellite's able to divert and get back onto site where the real fight's going on. There's the first blood thanks to the salvos, and so TSM a little closed off once more, but kind of already on site, so they've got to make it work. Ambrosia will make sure that doesn't happen. Beautiful shots from everybody on the squad, and it's a flawless round 1 for this defense.
I'm liking what I'm seeing so far.
Yeah, it's a
I don't know
great
what to
start
tell
for
you.
your Prez, man, I gotta say.
Oh man, I'm out here back against the wall, up against the world. No, but just taking a look at how they set up their defense there, like, I think that there is a lot that can be brought to the table thanks to this deadlock. And this is something you don't see too often on Split, but I like how Shondex has been setting up a lot of this utility there, more or less to just kind of play a little bit more stall tactic style, whereas given the fact that you've got that Yoru, Satellite can just zip around the map pretty easily to reinforce any of those pressure points, especially too with Glyph watching the other side. So the net does an excellent job as well as just trapping people down. Glyph, a little bit aware here, but Salvos will force that reposition.
Sim gonna get left planted. As will Watts back on over to mid, as that mesh is gonna retire. Immediately, Shondex just gonna slowly collapse on top of it with the help of Satellite. No stone left unturned just yet for this defense as they remain stalwart. Frontal assault will take out Satellite though on the vents. Get a free gun. Hand over to Vora. And really any way you could go here if you're TSM. Into the sensor. Ambrosia has turnaround to keep both fronts going, but Vora and Recoil eventually win out that war of attrition, leading to a 3v2 on site that TSM still look to be willing to fight for, actually. Vora continues to stay up close and personal with this Ghost and grab himself one more for TSM's favor. Welly alone with that Bulldog, as this round has already been turned on its head. So many things you have to open up, and we go with the fault line to at least keep away one. That'll negate the first check. Still so much to clear, though. Rotation through onto Recoil, jump shots. Well, he can't finalize. Thanks to that fault line set up by 7. It's a thrifty clutch back from TSM that ties us up at the 2 mark.
I need a drop.
I am no longer looking forward to my Preds. I'm flipping and flopping like a fish out of water right now. But no, I'm kidding. I do think that that was very well executed from TSM. They found so many opportunities where you could tell a lot of the utility was lined up for Ambrosia, but it wasn't that cohesive at the end of the day. And that allowed for some of those openings to happen to allow TSM to find the necessary picks, convert the weaponry over, and suddenly they're just able to steamroll onto the site. So excellent showing from TSM. This time around, they're going to be poking in onto this A site. A lot of people just on the other side. But looking at that GravNet, that could have dire consequences if they get caught.
No escape.
Immediately shot in. 7 early to the punch, so we'll grab a kill, but everyone else a little stuck. TSM willing to fight it out. Welly, the only one to grab a pick. TSM winning the lion's share of that duel. Glyph gets the off angle and a free headshot, but it is simply not enough this time around. 2-1 TSM.
Yeah, get a nice little plink there with the classic, but it felt like they weren't expecting the amount of players from TSM to be there. I do think that a lot of the utility setup from Ambrosia should have allowed it to be a little bit more contested, but instead, like, they get one, and then they're like, okay, we're probably chilling. And then all of the members of TSM just poke out around the corner, guns in hands, ready to mow them down. And you can tell Ambrosia, they thought that they were just getting that space for free after that first kill. So not really working out in their favor. But now we're finally seeing the equalization happen. Sim going to be bringing this operator in right off the bat here. And that's going to be the barrier mesh immediately expended in the middle to try and slow down some of this play as Satellite's playing on a nasty pixel angle with the op.
Still no action from TSM just yet, just seeing if anybody from Ambrosia wants to get uber aggressive up either of these lanes. You got GMD watching hella back. Still just fine for this extraneous mid-control. The stealth drone can wiggle under that mesh and at least spook Shondex a bit. As it goes bye-bye, TSM will slowly creep up.
There.
Playing so aware off the sonic sensors as well. You see that they're cutting noise. Should be able to take a lot of space, but if caught out here, the utility could be good.
Spotted the arm of Shondex, so willing to wipe out that sonic sensor, just waiting for the jump, and Sim is on top of it. Comfortable as ever on this raise. And we're back to that slowdown again. TSM
There. 30 seconds
not willing
left.
to level any amount of disrespect just yet. But 25 seconds on the clock. Got to get a little into it, and Ambrosia are ready to intercept. Glyph and Welly from below. 2 for 2 as Vora trades it back, and GMD making that impact, finally crossing through Garage. That'll be enough for Satellite, who's holding on to that operator to say, I'm out, and leave us to a 3-1 scoreline.
And so I think that this deadlock is a really good conversational topic here, because usually what you would expect is you would expect either the Vise or the Cypher, especially as Vise is becoming more and more viable in a lot of these compositions. Teams are just like, let's bring out that crazy shear and it's going to be great. But Cypher trips also worked out pretty well because you get that information at being able to isolate some of these areas. The Deadlock kit is built a lot more like an initiator style kit where you want to, throw your GravNet at the right time or completely deny entrance into one of these areas to catch your other team off guard. And then at that point, you can kind of spring on them and take them out pretty easily. And yet right now with this TSM offense, they're doing a really good job at just negating a lot of that utility that exists for those stuns and taking out the problem before the GravNet can even go off. I think that this is an excellent example here where Sim obviously gets that nice clean kill, but all of that pressure just completely dissolves as soon as the Deadlock goes down. And then it's just the flood in from TSM up top from heaven that makes sure that they can secure that B site without that much of a headache. So excellent job coming in from TSM at keeping the Deadlock in place. I'm still looking at Ambrosia to come up with a couple of different solutions because while novel, it doesn't work if you just keep on doing the same thing, especially as TSM has started to figure out how to play around some of the traps that you're setting.
Op for op, and Satellite will nail it. It's a good start in the eco. And so Ambrosia can play a step back again and try to make this a series of blows. Welly on is the secondary as 7 deals with Satellite through the screens. And TSM find their way onto site even easier than intended. And still, here's GMD. That 2-pronged attack with such perfect timing that not only pressures Shondex, but the rest of Ambrosia as well. And this team is so damn tight-knit. Their timing's impeccable for it every time. 4-1 now.
I'm a big fan of 7. Ever since 7 has been kind of playing in this level of Valorant. Originally was on the duelist role way back when for TSM and eventually got swapped off, is now playing the initiator role, but is still crispy as ever and has that just awareness of what's going on. Somehow able to pick up 2 headshots through walls It's unbelievable there. And you could tell that Satellite, just hopping around, shorty in hand, come at me. I got a shotgun and I'm not afraid to use it. And yet just gets completely screened, blindsided by Seven here. And so a very good start from TSM. All the players feel like they're shooting on all calibers. And it is really Ambrosia right now that is leaving a little bit of room for, wanting something a little bit stronger from them. We haven't really seen any of their combos really pay off in dividends. It always feels like there's just one person getting caught off guard, or they're just holding on to an angle and getting overwhelmed when doing so. So I wonder if this is just the TSM just rolling over them right now, but really TSM feel unstoppable after those first 5 rounds.
Yeah, whether or not it's of Ambrosia's own volition, the wires are getting crossed at some stage in the round. And TSM, I mean, the poster children when it comes to clean Tier 2 Valorant. They are not going to let you go scot-free for it. Full-blown garage send this time. It'll be util sent in to dissuade the frontliners that Ambrosia has occasionally sent, but nothing doing just yet. It'll be Glyph holding on the back line with the sonic sensor up, and Shondex again holding up the tower. Ambrosia playing miles back this time around as Glyph will try and spray through the smoke on top of the sonic sensor. GMD not dead for it.
Man, that's so unfortunate there. I thought the spray down was going to be immaculate. And one thing I have to say is it really feels like TSM are getting so much space without having to extend a lot of utility or anything. To be fair, it has been mostly that pressure towards that B site, but they've got everything that they need in their pockets still. And so when they engage onto these sites, it's a lot easier. They just have to wait down that barrier mesh, and suddenly all avenues are going to be ready for them to just crash in. It's going to be, once again, Shondex just going to be holding the front line. Does have the Annihilation available if they want to go fishing here for one of these TSM players.
Grabbing that good timing to catch Sim. He somehow avoids everything, though. GMD now the one holding this operator, gets blinded away, so can't land the opening shot. Cosmic Divide placed up the back of B site, so this will attempt to be a sandwich from TSM, but it's just a little awkward. And so Glyph can get the opening shot on the approach from Sim. TSM still have a lot of ground to make up, and Vora can't land the shots for it. So it's got to come down to GMD to open it up organically to some degree, but with 10 seconds to go, and the spike's stranded. It's pointless to give that a try. Recoil will still go in anyway, but an operator is all TSM will hold on to, and Ambrosia, they can hold the fort down for once.
Yeah, they're able to just shut it out. GMD, who took a lot of damage just at the start of that round, able to walk away with the operator in hand, looking for a cheeky shot there. You could tell a lot of these moments are rehearsed coming from Ambrosia. Just the calling as soon as they make contact, all of the utility flies through. Shondex, unfortunately, I think just hit a box in front of him with the Annihilation, so not able to find any players there. But all things considered, everything was ready to go from Ambrosia. They had a game plan and they executed on it brilliantly. TSM were doing a really good job at kind of threading their way through a lot of these cracks in where Ambrosia weren't. But that round, it felt a lot more put together from Ambrosia.
Adapt or die! Now the Steel Garden placed on top of this B site. So again, try to isolate the right members. Shondex still the prime target to pressure from this mid attack. But that'll slow down as Recoil has infiltrated this B side on the front line. Sim watching mid with this out, and he's the one that'll find the purchase this time around. Recoil circling completely. Glyph, oh, your back's not out long enough to get the kill. And now Shondex can come back for damage control, but Recoil's already too far in. Sim uses it as the opportunity to use the ultimate, and it's a 2-for-1 that now the operator holder is gonna fully invest in. Second that TSM lets Sim stretch his wings, you know the round is over.
I was gonna say, I was so curious. We see the Steel Garden get popped out, and there's no real push coming in from TSM. And yet still, it seems like as soon as the barrier mesh goes down, that we see the flood in happen. Sim uses the ultimate there, the showstopper online, able to just navigate through, find so much value on the site. Recoil as well, just kind of worming their way on that B site, completely unchecked. And Ambrosia, they just looked a little bit confused there as they just got picked off one by one. Of course, this is TSM's map, but right now they're putting on a very dominant performance compared to Ambrosia on the Ambrosia's defense right now.
And this is already looking like a fantastic start for TSM. Just consistently more game plans going in and out of different sites, and always willing to attack on at least 2 channels, if not 3, if they can find their way to it, which more often than not, they have found a way that they can. So really, so many options that they have to work with for these last 5 rounds of the half. And Ambrosia, they've still been giving a lot of space over preemptively, planting 1 or 2 sole defenders on sites to try and play for these retake games and, you know, spray throughs to, again, just slow down TSM. But, you know, again, when you're able to approach from these secondary angles so consistently like TSM has been doing, and spring it, again, at the exact same time, it's so tough to do on split specifically, but they manage to squeeze in that time window every time.
And I think that this might actually be a result of the static nature of Ambrosia's defense. We don't really see them poking through. We don't really see them taking those opportunities. They just kind of set up the lawn chair, kick their feet back, and wait for TSM to push into them. Unfortunately, what that does mean is that they don't have a lot of information as to where potentially things could be ending up. They don't have those initial pushes. They have no idea what could be happening a little bit early on in these rounds. And I think that that's why TSM are having so much success, because they're always catching Ambrosia off guard, because Ambrosia just simply don't have a read. Like, look at them. They've been extremely static in where they've held their defense this round so far.
Must have gotten the read onto Recoil's position at least.
30 seconds left.
So Ambrosia have an excuse to stay stagnant, but now there's an excuse to get mobile. Armageddon for Armageddon up opposing lanes, but neither's fully occupied. Of course, one is a little more of a point of issue. Salvo's right on top of that same entry point, and Ambrosia's ready to intercept, but Vora is ready to collect 3 kills for that Tejo, as TSM barely scrapes onto site with 10 seconds to go and only one person to deal with, but it's Glyph, and he's got his. Does he go for more? I don't think so.
I don't think so either. Once again, the call being made to save. An Armageddon on an Armageddon. Matched, of course, with a little bit of chaos, but GMD just taking heaven control. And that really was the linchpin. You could see the Ambrosia players getting ready to push in and potentially catch the TSM members who are all stunned up on the site, completely off guard, and yet GMD just cleaning house. Make sure nobody from Ambrosia was going to get that oversight. Not going to take advantage of any of those stuns up. And like, these rounds are just so, they're over as soon as they begin, as soon as TSM decide, now we're going to execute. It's looking so clean from this squad thus far, and Ambrosia are just really having a hard time at even finding a foot in the door.
Very decisive pretty early on in these executes. Ambrosia not really giving a second chance for these reapproaches. But I must speak to their ability to be able to play for that first point of contact more often than not. Certainly this round, Vora went a little cray-cray, but they've been more than willing to fight. Welly and Glyph in particular have been doing a fantastic job of matching up these peaks when TSM times them right. Clearly, Ambrosia has their finger on the pulse. It just needs to all come together at the same time, and TSM just happen to be so much better at doing that specifically.
All right, looks like we're going for a little springtime adventure from Ambrosia. Playing a little bit more forwards, a little bit more risque on mid. But still, it's so static, and Satellite playing very close with a Bucky here. Might be able to find a timing, but it's still a little bit of a tall order. Ambrosia on a little bit of a save.
Oh, Sim's not watching. He's looking above! That's exactly what Satellite was counting on. Luckily, GMD with the trade back, and can just barely get that operator. Oh no, Glyph punishes him after the kill onto Welly. So 2 for 2 there from that controller. What do you have now for TSM to open the site up? Just this Tejo breach. So you've got to find a way to isolate the picks. Luckily, you now know a way to do that with the weaker side of A. And Shondex, again, target on his back, ready to intercept.
Yeah, like, it feels like Ambrosia are just so unaware of what could potentially happen. It doesn't seem like they have a read on anything that TSM are doing.
Left.
Finally, 30 seconds left on the clock. They will be pressuring Shondex now. Only a pistol in hand. Has to hold the ground until the reinforcements come.
Yeah, just has to play the waiting game here. Aftershock to flush him out. Still finds the shot from the corner. Continuing to stall this out. Another one from Shondex. Target no more. He has become the hunter. That's a 3-piece on the Sheriff. For a thrifty round win, at least on his behalf, for Ambrosia's favor. Now 3-6.
Hey, yo, my bad, Shondex. I didn't recognize your game.
I was not familiar with your game.
Crazy coming through. Headshots, making sure that the Annihilation is back online. And it all started out, too, with Satellite somehow finding Sim. TSM, despite the man advantage, despite the utility advantage, and despite the weapon advantage, fall short to just the Sheriff on site. Unbelievable stuff, making sure that Ambrosia are definitely still in this. And look at this, so aggressive right out the bat, trying to catch some people out there, but at least buys some space for Ambrosia on this defense as Akron goes out there. It will spot out quite a few people, so Satellite will be watching nice and close with the op.
First time they did this, it was a trap play to get intel. This time it's a trap play to insert Satellite, and this time it'll work wonders for the opener and the duelist Ditto. Now you have every excuse to play far back and let Satellite continue to work on this operator freely. Smash is about to go, though, so GMD could creep up kind of any which way. Ambrosia will need to respread the defense if TSM doesn't give anything else away here.
Thankfully, Satellite can watch this with the operator. And you see the pings on the minimap right now. It still looks like TSM will be looking for the engagement over here. Time's starting to go down, but that's an excellent smoke. Make sure that Satellite not able to find as much value as GMD's going exploring.
Brave walk in there, and that's a grab net from GMD. Recognizes the catch. Now we'll just let Glyph get escorted on up. GMD has to make the choice, and he makes the right one. At least grabbing his. 25 seconds, TSM is circumnavigating all the way back to B site that just got re-cleared. Ambrosia's gonna meet this head on. This is certainly a call. How do you plead? Sonic sensor immediately. No connection from Shondex. You're safely on site. You got time. Salvos to dissuade. Armageddon from Shondex, though. Right on top of the plant. Dimensional drift to block the entry from 7, but nothing is working out here for Ambrosia. Everybody's stuck. The Armageddon did catch Vora, though. So it's Welly versus Recoil to end things. And he's going to step in on top of the spike first. No catch just yet, though. Now that he has that Arc Rose active, he wants to play a little farther back. No, Welly's got the peak. Ambrosia managed to claw it back again, and it's 4-6.
A little bit of a brawl happening on that site there. We see even after the Annihilation gets popped, immediately traded out. Perpetrator was able to find Welly in the midst of all that. GMD somehow being able to find that kill as well. Yeah, it just comes down to the very end here. Stunned up as well, down in the 1v1 up against Recoil. And it will be Ambrosia coming out on top. 2 rounds away now from tying things up. TSM, they do have the Cosmic Divide available. 2 away from getting the Rolling Thunder for 7 as well. Meanwhile, Ambrosia, they do have more than enough weaponry here. However, they don't have any ultimates to contest. We saw them being a little bit more exploratory on that last round, taking that advantage forward. Satellite able to pop out and find a nice little kill. But unless we see more of those opportunities, I think TSM can continue to run the circus today.
Launching thorns.
Yeah, they should be able to get the discipline back in order and turn this to an 8-4. If things go according to their plans. Great hold from Vora to catch Satellite before the shot rings out. Oh, it's on Shondex again. Grabnet in hand for this tower. It's Sim who's done the creeping this time and is ready for the steps. Here's Akrian, catches Akrian, kills Akrian. Now Welly the peep back. You can't contest with the guy either. And A-site's been entirely carved out by the duelist.
Spike dropped.
Yeah, it feels like there's those opportunities where when Ambrosia are expecting something, when they've got the heads up, they're just like, yeah, we're gaming now. We're finding kills. Everything is nice and fine. But if TSM throw a wrench into their plan, it almost feels like panic is on set here. And that's when we see TSM really start their steamroll over. Ambrosia are making the call for the save, but TSM are going hunting.
Right into Shondex's active op. And so TSM will not leave with too much, actually. Of course, getting rid of this operator would be crucial in nailing that last round and a half, so It's good for GMD to once again get this creep up B going. Just a little bit longer, and it doesn't appear that Glyph will be able to get that gun back. Oh, he's gonna make a gun. He's gonna make a run for it. Oh, he got it. All right, so Ambrosia will not have to buy that, but I mean, things are stiff for this defensive side this time.
I would agree, but at the same time, like, compared to how this half started out here, I mean, Ambrosia kind of looked like timid children at first, right? But now we're starting to see them be a little bit more aggressive. They're taking more of these opportunities there. They feel more confident, and now we're starting to see the squad that was able to take down M80. So I wouldn't count them out just quite yet. They're really starting to impress me as they're getting these heat ups and matching TSM blow for blow right now. So never say it's over yet. I still believe.
No, I have every reason to. So much more to play. This is still TSM's pick. Seeing Glyph already rotate over to the boxes, at least for now. He'll sort of play the angles, try to goad out this util. Oh, he did a perfect job of it, actually. Salvos are now spent. Only a paranoia thrown back to make sure nobody pushes him individually. Ambrosia's stacked on top of this, so if TSM can gun it through mid, might be able to beat them to the punch over on A site.
And just good reaction coming through from Ambrosia. Dumping all that util, making sure that TSM don't really have an opportunity to be able to run things forwards. Because I do think that TSM, if they had that chance, we could have seen Sim just kind of fly through. And a little bit of a scout happening. Spots out GMD, so might give an idea that this mud crunch might be happening. Rolling Thunder and Showstopper still available.
Wow, triple ult committed to this, and Satellite still finds the lurker and recoil anyway. 4 ultimates now for TSM. Might as well use them all, I guess, but Ambrosia's not taking any of it, and they're doing all of the damage. Sim,
What?
you can only see your gun. That was the quickest shutdown of 4 ults I've ever seen in my life.
Switching sides.
Like, once again, the protocols were ready. Ambrosia seemed like that they were anticipating those ultimates to be able to come through. And so you see that nothing really finds that much value. This time around, Ambrosia are playing so far off that site that when TSM go exploring, nobody's home until, they all just pop out from around their corner, find their timings. The smokes are excellent, and Ambrosia find that final round. 5-7 in this half, and it's looking a lot more even here, as Ambrosia are going to be on the attacking side now. 2 rounds separating this team. And I don't know what to tell you. I think that this could be a little bit more attacker-sided friendly for Ambrosia based on their composition. So I'm curious to see how they want to be able to roll things out. I think that their utility really says they should be just pushing people out and taking advantage of that weird spacing that can happen off a lot of this utility, but they need to make sure to follow up on it too.
GMD playing that same starting role that Glyph did here on the B defense. Glyph, open peak, demolished by recoil, but so much of a death ball that Ambrosia's just gonna make it work. Crashing onto site. Early mesh up, but the paint shells to stave off the plant, at least for now. Head back over to safe spot. Sim can't land any headshots, so nobody killed in the process just yet. And TSM still pretty walled out. Is that barrier mesh? Will eventually fade away, though. Everyone will begin their re-entry into salvos. Will catch Welly. Everyone else climbing into the waiting arms of these pistols. Shondex's wraparound finally about to make an impact just in time for everyone else on Ambrosia to be dead. There's your first backstab. Nice headshots for 2, but that's as far as Shondex gets. It's going to be 8-5 for the defenders.
An amazing retake utility coming in from TSM there. As soon as I was looking at like which members were still alive, I'm like, oh, they have a fault line and some salvos. And everyone knows where you're gonna go hide.
Wait a minute.
Who could have seen that one coming? And like, yeah, it's just so excellent. Like, they had such a clean retake there. Obviously, Sim just watching the other side. Sure, Shondex gets that flank underway, and it was looking promising for a little bit. But still, just fantastic job from TSM, just playing it nice and slow, and they're able to scoop up that pistol, getting a little bit more distance between these 2 teams on that score line. It's a little bit fast this time. Nice little 3 circles of death, just in case anyone from TSM got a little bit rambunctious. They will walk away with that ultimate orb, giving it over to Shondex, who's getting closer and closer to having that annihilation online. Ambrosia, though, just so ready to inch forwards onto this B site. GMD watching from the other side.
Ambrosia just playing for whatever material they can muster this round, understanding that they're likely walking into handing TSM 5 free orbs. They just arc rose themselves to like gas themselves up. Or am I crazy? Sim, good spray down. TSM, I mean, the force is here, but good shots from a couple of the members of Ambrosia. That is going to hand Sim an ultimate for the following round, though, so this bonus certainly still going to be an ordeal for Ambrosia.
The arc rosing your own team is the equivalent of dunking your head in ice cold water. You know?
I was going to say it was like hitting your head in the mirror before you like go out to the gym or something. I'm him, I'm goated. I'm rage peaking.
If I can't see, my senses will be focused on lifting instead. No, I do think that was a little bit of an error. I think the Arcurus was supposed to go through onto the other side so they could flash themselves in.
So.
But, you know, mistakes happen. At the same time, you were already down in the weapon game, so not the best round, but out of all of the rounds that could happen, that's a good one for the mistake to kind of come through. We do now see Ambrosia have rifles in hands. Moving up on to this A site, the Sheer just on the other side. Satellite doesn't really have that decoy anymore, so can't really just activate the Sheer willy-nilly. We'll just step around anyways and set it off at the very minimum. But look at this TSM, completely different look on this defense. They have such a good read on where Ambrosia are going and are ready to shut the door on their faces.
Yeah, they're right in front of this, and they're willing to move house the second that Ambrosia does, which they still can. Acreon posted up on this B flank. Even stealth droning to clear it. And TSM starting to understand this lack of commitment could lead to some lurks. Nothing doing though. No easy kills found. Head back over to where the execution has to go. Those salvos are so crucial to the push. That still has yet to come through until he gets here. 35 seconds. It's cutting it close for sure. And Seven's gotten impatient. Let's go some util.
30 seconds.
Now Ambrosia does the same. Recoil gets the pick from the site onto Satellite. Tried to hop onto the back site. Couldn't make it happen. No execution plan from Ambrosia. And brother, it shows. 4 and 7 going crazy in heaven to take TSM to double digits.
Yeah, once again, just the awareness, the understanding. Felt like TSM were just seeing the matrix, seeing the code of Valorant in front of them as to where these Ambrosia players were going to be going. An excellent job just shutting down any single advance that they had there. And that's the thing too, like you see the early util dump to try and get that orb. Sure, Ambrosia, they make that one work here, but the engagement in not enough time, perfect timing on the flash here, and you're just in the shooting range for the two members of TSM. I believe that was Seven and Bora to gun down all these members, and this time around Ambrosia getting a little bit fast and furious with it.
GMD right on top of the box, sees again, trying to get the drop on this Ambrosia team and does a solid job of it, but now the Annihilation excuse to throw it in and it will catch, but Seven's Aftershock still finds Glyph on that close quarter, so at the end of the day, it's a 2-for-2 extravaganza that now leaves Welly and Shondex wondering where to head to.
So slow right now. I mean, they don't really have that much util to work off of either. Deal with barrier mesh and one more sonic sensor. Welly just going to have to wait for the fault line to come back online. It seems like they might have actually picked the right site. And this is going to be a good time because they should be able to rescue some of these rifles. Make this a lot closer. Of course, Vora's still alive. Has the potential to launch some of those salvos, force out some of those repositions when the retake is underway. But all things considered, what was looking like a pretty desperate round from Ambrosia is slowly getting recovered.
This is very much possible. You got a sensor you can set up. Looks like Shondex is going to do that on the front site. Where do you spread from here? It looks like Welly is just going to play right on top of it for the crossfire. Mesh, and it'll just get broken down. TSM can't waste any time. And that's going to be both guns heard, so no reason not to just toss this grab net in and waste even more time. Vines tossed in the front, salvos in the back, arc rows not utilized. They try swing it, and Ambrosia connects. A thrifty round 16 stabilizes Ambrosia here on the attack.
Yeah, somehow Welly just dodging the salvos. Tiptoeing around that little circle painted onto the ground and able to survive. Finds a perfect angle to allow for the excellent crossfire. And it does feel like family is the solution after all. Fast and Furious on at the site, so much disruption happening, playing those very close angles and just overwhelming the defenses from TSM to make sure that Ambrosia still have a leg in this race. Still 4 rounds separating the team. Sim does have the showstopper online. Glyph, the only person on Ambrosia with an ultimate available. Stealthbot doesn't necessarily scope anybody out here. But look at the Sim so far forwards, operator in hand, waiting for one of the members of Ambrosia to just peek around the corner to get an easy kill right off the bat.
It would be Shondex who will jump back, and that'll be the opportunity gone. So Sim's just gonna look for a new one. Blinded away and scared out. Satellite says, my peak now. And Sim says, no. It's, he's running away, okay. Vora, good for the second too. And recoil on the follow-up after Welly tries to play from a distance. Nice management from TSM in the early stages. TSM, the operators have met at a different location, and it is Sim who wins out that duel. Fun little dance these two duelists are doing. I'm really enjoying it. Shondex is finally up and running here this round, and unfortunately can't get more than one. TSM 2 rounds out from taking their pick.
And it's looking so clean from them. I mean, we saw all the peaks come through from Ambrosia, unsupported by any utility whatsoever. They thought that they could just kind of go in and get the space for free, and just one person from TSM watching an angle. Of course, the operator, yeah, sure, that's happening on that side, but Vora just watching them poke their heads one at a time, not even swinging together, mind you, just walking up ramp, and that's just easy headshots. The crosshair placement is perfect. So once again, from Ambrosia on this attack, I need to see them playing a little bit more coordinated, going for more of these site hits. We know that they can shoot well. We know they can play off of each other. And right now, it doesn't seem like that is necessarily coming through. And I don't think that that is like TSM playing out of their minds. They are playing very well, but it's Ambrosia gifting TSM some of these opportunities. And so we're seeing Ambrosia now take this timeout. I'm hoping that they can, pull some of this stuff back together so that we get more of a competitive map, because this is feeling very one-sided from TSM thus far.
This was, of course, the map where Ambrosia did falter against M80 as well. It was clear that the weaknesses were spotted from a distance. TSM able to really condense Ambrosia and, like you said, kind of prevent them from being able to play on top of themselves like they normally do so well and so mechanically. Either they end up completely ISO'd and way too slow to a push to really make a dent, and they all have to push in together into one piece of util that will shut them all down. Or, arguably, even worse, what we're seeing a majority of the time here, which is Ambrosia getting so stuck together, so condensed, that TSM barely has to lift a finger to find any member outside of it anyway, and they can just unload even heavier.
You know what they say, diamonds are made under pressure, and Ambrosia definitely feeling pressure right now. As Recoil, just on the other side of this, is aware, though, that people are coming, and Armageddon gets launched, but not going to find any purchase.
First rise up from GMD, intimidated out, and Glyph can find it with the Stinger. Free entry for Ambrosia onto the B site, and the plant on top of the barrier mesh immediately burned away. TSM ready for the fight at a given notice. Especially once this smoke fades away, a free operator sightline from the tower. Ambrosia, a whole lot of clearing to be done once these faux walls go down. In comes the creep from Sim. He's the bell ringer. First shot rings out, rest of TSM enters on. Fault line, showstopper from Sim. Inside the smoke. This is insane from Glyph. He's gonna drop down and go for another. Vora, the only one able to do anything this round, and Ambrosia are the ones that spring the trap on TSM here on B site.
And quite frankly, I think that it is mostly because of Glyph there. I mean, as soon as Glyph slips through the smoke, just dodging a little bit of timing there, spots somebody out, completely neutralizes TSM's retake, and Sim uses the showstopper as well, doesn't quite find it. Ambrosia were just ready for TSM to enter in from all of the different areas onto that site. And Glyph, once again, just able to stay alive in the midst of all of that. And it's just really well done. Like, a lot of these angles were just being watched to a T. And so TSM, as soon as they walk in, they just hit the ground dead.
Again, is it something that can be replicated? That's the big question. Overall, TSM still look to be the cleaner team. That being said, with the double TP, Ambrosia very easily take the space they need to for this A site, aggressively at that. Once again, the mesh setup right after the spike goes down. Just to play for that time and force at least 2 members to commit to either burning it or waiting it out. Now that that's done, you've got to, again, get a little proactive with it. Start your peaks early, and Glyph will do that on top of a Paranoia. But the blinds out onto site let TSM enter for far freer. Satellite on the shorty, good for the one. Have to get up close and personal at that stage, and Sim's going to try and do the same. Glyph can at least shut that down. 7 and GMD now entering on the site, and the rest of that army is going to do enough to break through. Game point, 5 rounds strong for the defenders in TSM as they continue to look cleaner and more put together, at least here on Split. But that was the same story for Ambrosia last match, and guess what they did?
Match point.
Pulled the rug out from underneath M80, that's for sure. But that was a heartbreaking round for Ambrosia. You could see how they wanted to play it. They got the spike down. They got themselves nice and set up, but it felt a little bit uncoordinated when it came to all of the ultimates. They dumped everything they had in there, and unfortunately, Valorant isn't one of those games that you can just press the ultimate button and expect to win out a round. You have to actually do some follow-up, do something more on top of it, and just the lack of coordination coming in. Sure, the ultimates did go off, but there wasn't really anything that was gained from it. So they lose all of those tools. Doesn't matter though, running it down yet again. Glyph able to find 7, just looking the other way.
Oh, Sim has to open up with the paint shells, but it's a little too close. Thank goodness Vora is there to once again get 2. He's feeling himself today. Luckily though, it was all facade. The mid-fight was really a tool to get the rest of Ambrosia up A, and they have gotten up A. Has Shondex just meshed himself in?
It's all a clever ruse, Tenrek. You don't know what's going on.
I would love to know what's going on, Marks. I need some semblance of an idea there, because now it's all down to Acreon. He is playing Tejo, so he can definitely still win. Nice shots on a recoil. Has to get up close on top of that Armageddon. He was kind of, they were kind of asking him to kill him there, if I'm being honest. Vora and GMD, just making sure that this is extended as long as possible. Acreon, are you joking? The perfect angle handed to him on the rat back. And this game will at least get extended 1 more round.
And that was all because of the mesh from Sean. No,
this plan worked all along.
I do think that was a little bit of like a, you know, oh, if the mesh is up here, no one's going to expect me. And I think that there was an attempt to try and take a timing onto Heaven. But unfortunately, like, Recoil was just watching for it. So it looks a little bit silly when you think about it like that. But all things considered, Ambrosia still in the midst of all of it. TSM this time are the ones who are back onto the save. We see a little bit of utility getting expended right off the bat onto this B side. Satellite looking, though, for an opportunity to do something. And Sim is the only one who's got that judge in hand, waiting for them to move up forwards and potentially get a spray down there. And still, it's just nice and quiet from Ambrosia. Their most successful rounds are when they kind of run it down, but this time around, they're playing that slow style. And that makes me a little bit nervous for this attack.
Oh, Satellite whiffs up mid. So Ambrosia has to reconsider the attack once more. Ambrosia, stiff setups closer to the spawns, waiting for people like GMD to get impatient. Who's next on the chopping block appears to be Recoil by default with all of this setup, but the Vines will slow things down. Glyph will make the call to TP on in, and it'll work out for him. Now has to TP out of the Aftershocks too, and that'll work too. Well, he's got his back. Everybody working out for Ambrosia on this round. Nobody able to make a dent on behalf of TSM, at least this round, except who? Oh, take a guess. Take a guess who got a kill this round for TSM.
Hey, for what it's worth, Sim got like a lot of damage in because they were all lined up. That one shot out of the judge, like it pinged a lot of people, okay? But yeah, now we're seeing TSM take this tactical time out here. Obviously, it was one of those rounds where, you know, they didn't have the right weaponry to make that one work. Ambrosia just kind of steamrolling off them. But taking a look at the ult economy as well, there is a very realistic scenario where Ambrosia can force out this overtime. The ult cycling could work out in combination with the punishment onto this the economy of TSM, where they could be looking at a potential comeback, which would be crazy. So yeah, TSM, they want to make sure they can close this out. They don't need more of a headache. They don't need this map to stretch out any longer, because that gets closer and closer from Ambrosia potentially getting yet another upset.
And they're really going to wrap this up, prevent any more opportunities from sprouting up here, because Ambrosia is very easily able to take advantage of them at the drop of a hat. So this should be the fulcrum round for TSM. They will get one more for themselves after this, of course, but with the Rolling Thunder in tow and nothing else really that close except Recoil Steel Garden, I suppose, they will not be able to go for a full-blown set play. And with Ambrosia a lot in the tank, I fear this will be another slightly slower round for the defense, just playing that discipline, playing for the peaks, trying to bait out as much as possible before the going gets tough. Ambrosia already very forward approach on this ace site, setting up the sonic sensors, lickety split, just walking right in. Boris is going to get rid of it now, and Satellite immediate punish.
That's not good. Vora, the top fragger for TSM, has been doing so much damage and immediately just kind of plucked out in the midst of a smoke. Ambrosia, they stall themselves down, they halt things up. Satellite still watching here onto this site. We hear a pin drop in the server. Such slow play from Ambrosia. Finally, they get themselves ready to go. Setting up the smokes as well as the utility. Sim is going to be the first point on the flood and through.
The TP will catch him, so Sim does have to move away. And luckily, he will get out so he can recreep. Ambrosia, full-on assault up tower, and the Rolling Thunder is the perfect counter to that. They've fallen right into TSM's trap again!
30 seconds left.
7! Gets the easiest assist list of his life. Thanks to that immediate change in course by Ambrosia. What is no doubt a tragic conclusion to at least this map, as TSM will take it 13-9. You mess up, you can't hang. That's the message that TSM intends to deliver that M80 could not. And they're one map away from fully sending it.
Yeah, excellent job from TSM. I think across the board, when you take a look at some of the strategies, some of the set plays, and I think just the awareness of the map, TSM just looked simply unrivaled going up against Ambrosia. While Ambrosia, you could tell there were definitely moments where it was like, this is some unbelievable play. We're seeing some very high quality players on this squad. It don't seem like they figured it out as closely as TSM, specifically on this first map. Honestly, like even though there were a couple of flubbers happening from TSM, at the end of the day, they pulled it together and they had such a solid lead rolling into that honestly game. So I think that it was an excellent map from TSM. Was of course their map pick, but of course then we have map number 2, which is going to be Ascent, and that's Ambrosia's map pick. So don't count my boys out just quite yet, Tenrek. All I'm saying.
Absolutely. No, Ambrosia, it's clear they know this upcoming map better than Split. They intend to turn it into their jungle gym like they did against M80. This match is far from over. TSM's got to maintain that resolve. We'll see if they do after the break.